This is Metal Mike, and in this episode I talk with the legendary LA Guns vocalist, Phil Lewis. We hear all about their new album, Checkered Past, and we also revisit some key albums from the band's back catalog. Hey, you like how things are going on this channel? Well, if you're on YouTube right now, show me some love, hit like and subscribe, and also consider becoming a financial supporter of the podcast through Anchor. There's a link in the description below. Here's my chat with Phil. Check it out. Well, Phil, welcome to the 80's Glam Metalcast. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing very well, man. Glad to be talking with you. New album's on the way, Checkered Past. What can everybody expect from it?
Bit of everything. It's all good. I mean, there's no bad if you include everything. Well, we've got some bad songs too. No, it's a great record. It's a record we're all very proud of. And what it is the third one. It's the third record that we've released since the reunion, since Tracy and I buried the hatchet about 5 years ago. Each one of those records has a sort of a tongue-in-cheek, double meaning, subtle meaning title of the record. And the first one being The Missing Piece, and it was missing peace, and peace spelled like love and peace.
Sure.
And that was a good title after a 15-year estrangement, because it just all fell into place. It just felt really good, and the music sounded good. And you know, while we were making the record, that just was the working title, and it worked out perfectly. And then the second one, we called it The Devil You Know, because, you know, everyone knows the saying, better the devil you know. And he certainly is a devil. And he'd say the same thing about me. So it's about, you know, the devil, you know. I know we know each other really, really well. So all these titles are like little puns, if you like, on our friendship, our relationship, our partnership over almost 4 decades now. And then this new one is titled Checkered Past. And if there are two people that ever had a checkered past, it's him and I.
Sure.
And it's a great title. And you know, it's funny, once you kind of get the title into your head, then everything, it also, you know, like an album takes on a personality. This one's got a lot of personality. It's got a lot of variety in it. You know, we got balls out, you know, like in your face, you know, like songs like Cannonball.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, we got tricky stuff, like tricky atmospheric songs like I'm Gonna Let You Down. So it's never boring. It's not a one-dimensional record. It's got lots going on, lots of different styles, and of course it was recorded during the pandemic. But I'm sure you've got another question for me. I'll talk about this thing all day. But yeah, that's what they can expect.
Awesome, man. Sounds great. With Cannonball, you know, I love what you guys do is, you know, you can take something that can be really heavy, but then when you get to the chorus, you know, you've always got that catchy hook. Is that something that you always kind of want to see there, Phil? Like, at least to have that hook in there?
I like hooks, you know. I you know, a lot of, like, sort of post-80's bands, you know, like sort of apocalyptical bands, I can listen. I don't know where the chorus is, you know. I'm listening to a song and I can't, you know, with a lot of modern music, the modern rock, I can't figure it out. But, you know, maybe I'm just too old, but for me, I like a chorus to jump out and slap you upside the head, you know. And it's just like, okay, here's the verse, here's the bridge, and the chorus, and it's, you know, the more impact it can have, the catchier. You can't have there's no such thing as a chorus that's too catchy. You know, I'm with you. You know, I love big choruses, and by golly, we got one in Cannonball, don't we?
Definitely.
It is just such a great party sing along, and you know, the whole thing, the vibe of that song is an album in itself. You know, the lyrics and the imagery, and it's in the set. I'm answering questions before you even ask me, so yeah. It's just got a little bit of everything, and more hooks than a fisherman's hat.
Well, that's great, man, because I love the hooks. And, you know, the other thing that probably everybody notices is your voice. I mean, it still sounds so damn good. What's your secret?
Well, thank you very much. You know, I appreciate that. You know, I will say, on this record, I've done a lot more singing in a lower register. You know, that I might not have done 15 or 20 years ago. And you know, it's not because I can't sing up there. It's just, I don't know, I got kind of smarter about it. I'm more economic about it. There's lots of high stuff in there, screechy, you know, like high stuff, the kind of vocal you'd hear on the first two records we put out, you know, Cocked and Loaded and the debut. A lot of screaming, a lot of, yeah, you know, there is a bit of that on this, but yeah, because, you know, I'm smart enough to, you know, look in the future and realize, well, if it takes off, you're going to have to sing this every night. so don't set the bar too high. You know, I always feel bad for Bon Jovi having to go out and do Runaway. You know, because that chorus at the end, it's just impossible. It's like helium and oh boy, it sounds great on the record, but good luck doing that live. So no, you know, I don't want to do that. I don't want to set the bar too high. And you know, I worked a lot with Mitch Davis on the vocals, and you know, he gave me a lot of confidence in just going with my lower voice. I said, okay. And he's like, yep, that's fine. It sounds great. I like the way it sounds. It's got a good vibe to it. But I still take care of my voice, of course. You know, I still, you know, before shows, I do warm-ups. I don't smoke. I avoid making a lot of noise after a show. That's the hardest discipline of all, of course. You know, after a great show, you just want to just explode and have fun, and you know, especially these shows we've got coming up in November. It's been so long; it's been like 2 years. So I'm really going to have to discipline myself and not get carried away, because I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward to getting back and doing shows. But there I go again, getting ahead of the question. So. Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Well, you know, another thing about your voice too, I feel like, you know, you talked about on some of those earlier albums where your voice is, you know, in a higher register. I feel like your voice is kind of like deceptively high, because I think when sometimes because it's just coming across so easy when you do it. Like you listen to it and you're like, oh, that doesn't sound that high. But you know, if you're singing to that in your car and you try and your voice starts to crack, you know, I feel like you really do have a higher register at times that you're singing, but you do it effortlessly. So it's kind of deceptive.
Well, thank you very much. I wouldn't say effortlessly, but it's interesting you bring up the car, because that was where I learned to sing as well. Listening to, like everyone, listening to Stairway to Heaven, or Smoke on the Water, or you know, any of these corny classic metal songs like, you know, Iron Man. That was it, you know, and I'd just be in the car screaming. And that was the basis of my musical education, and it served me well. And you know, it's funny because Sebastian Bach's exactly the same way. And you know, we have a laugh about it, you know how we basically, because there are no rock singer academies, you know, or there certainly weren't when I was getting started, and for Sebastian either. It was just, you know, that was, you know, like the car was the only place where you could really, you couldn't get, that people wouldn't complain. You couldn't scream the house down, or if you were in, God forbid, if you were in an apartment. So yeah, it's funny. So yeah, that's those are the early singing for me, and singing my favorite songs is my favorite warm up. It's not necessarily the most efficient. They do have a series of vocal exercises that actually focus on specific parts of the voice and warm it up in a very sort of technical way that I've been doing, and I highly recommend them for any singer, anyone that's got to do more than like a couple of shows a week, or if you want to be a proper singer, and go on tour and do it every night. It's a very important discipline. Sebastian does it. Axel does it. All the best singers with the biggest range, they do it because it's the same thing as a guitarist warming up, finger exercises. And then you get somebody like Robin Zander, who's the idea of a vocal exercise is like a cigarette. Some people just don't have to do it, don't have to worry about it. They just got it. And it makes me sick. It's like, I asked him, he goes, don't be daft. And he said, pass me my cigarette. He's unbelievable. I love his voice. I love him as a person. Some people, that might, the singers that I know, we're all very disciplined about it. It takes 15 or 20 minutes. And it really, the benefits for doing it, just, I couldn't do without.
So when you go back in time, Phil, you do the band Girl, and it doesn't last, for a whole lot of time. And I think you did something with Torme, right? And this offer to go into LA Guns. I mean, what was your expectation at the time? Did you think this band could still be around? I mean, what were you thinking going into it?
No, I thought, it's a nice opportunity for me to go out to Hollywood and have a nice holiday for a couple of months. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I swear to God, I thought that would be it. It would be a fun romp, a little adventure, and something I'd always remember. That really that was a long time ago, and things just snowballed. And as you said, you mentioned Girl. Girl was my first band when I late teenager, early 20s, and it was around the same time as Def Leppard started, same time as Iron Maiden, and there were bands like Iron Maiden and Def Leppard. It was clear that they were going to have a legacy. They were going to be, if they were books, they'd be like a leather-bound 10-book set. I always say that Girl was a 2-page poem. It was never designed to be long, stick around for a long time. It was just it was a flash. I never wanted it to be. I'm so glad that Girl didn't hit the jackpot with around the same time as Maiden and Def Leppard, because just absolutely not ready for it and never wanted it. As far as LA Guns go, I never expected it to have the kind of longevity that it has. But once you start selling a lot of records and getting played on the radio and get a couple of gold records under your belt, it changes everything. It really does. And I remember back when we first got the record deal with LA Guns. I was a little bit older than the guys, and I was like, don't kid yourselves. You haven't made it. We haven't made it yet, just because we got a record deal. It's any band, almost any band can get a record deal if the situation's right and the environment's right. And so it was going from getting the record deal to getting it certified gold was really an incredible amount of work, but because of it, we are. It gave us a 30-plus year legacy. So it was well worth it. And I, I make it sound like it was hard work. It was hard work, but boy, God, it was fun.
Right. Well, back to that first album, a lot of these songs were kicking around before you got there. And then did you step in and rewrite the lyrics? And why, I guess, is my question.
Well, yeah, on the first album, I always consider it to be a bit of a salvage project. The band had, Tracy, in one form or another, had been playing under the LA Guns name since like 1984. So he'd accumulated a lot of songs, a lot of ideas. And then the period with the singer before me, they'd done some recording and they'd done quite a lot of writing, and they had a bunch of demos, and there were certain songs, I think, like Never Enough and certainly Sex Action. Mm-hmm. I had the songs were already written, they were already recorded, they had the other guy's vocals on, and I didn't, it's not that I didn't even want to sing the stuff that he did. I couldn't understand what he was singing. I was like, I slowed down the cassette and it was like this weird mumbling, and I certainly didn't want that. I mean, if, it'd been fantastic lyrics and a good song is a good song. And I wouldn't have touched it if I didn't think I could make it better. Mm-hmm. But, those mumblings and turned out to be fucking Sex Action and Never Enough. And those are strong, vocally strong songs. And you absolutely know what the fuck I'm singing in them. So, yeah, very much a salvage job on the first record. And then when, we got to do Cocked and Loaded, of course, it was a clean slate. We were all starting in the same position, mm-hmm. starting an album from scratch. There was no stuff that had been lying around. We used all that up on the first record. And then, so it's Cocked and Loaded for me personally, was my first LA Guns record. I mean, I know I did, I'm honored, and I love the first one, the self-titled. Mm-hmm. But I really, I felt like I was an integral part. I felt like a visitor on it, on the first one, and I felt like a band member on the second.
Yeah, Cocked and Loaded definitely sounds like it's a cohesive band making it. You know what I mean? So, I think everybody gets that same feeling. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm as proud of it today as I was then.
We'll skip ahead a little bit to 1992. Okay, so the whole heavy 80s metal thing is starting to die out. But I was kind of surprised, and you guys were probably surprised too. You had a surprise hit with It's Over Now, and then ultimately you're even playing MTV Spring Break that year. Did you think that you could maybe navigate through the 90s at that point?
The moment I heard It's Over Now, I knew it was over. That song. And I don't hate the song. We're actually putting it in the set because we never have, and I'm curious to see what it sounds like live and how it goes down. But the writing was definitely on the wall, man, and the fact that we even got a little bit post. I don't know. We'll just call it hair metal for the sake of argument. Sure. After the bubble burst. We managed to hang on for a little bit. But I remember when we were shooting the video for it, one of the guys, the bass player, was asking the director if he needed any help. I wanted to start working as an assistant in videos. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, we are doomed. And I never really wanted to sing it, and I was dissuaded. It was like, Phil, this is going to be a huge hit. This is going to be a huge crossover. And I was like, no, I'm not. And then we're like, look, I'll tell you what, just run through it and let's see how your voice sounds on it. Just see how it fits. It might not even fit in the song. So I went ahead and did it. and I only did it once, and the next thing I know, it's the lead single off the record. Harsh.
Yeah.
That was the business for you.
Well, you bring up an interesting point about your voice, and I feel like you do seem like you can kind of fit on just about anything. I mean, you look at something like on the Vicious Circle album, and there's some heavy, heavy shit on there. And your voice doesn't sound out of place, okay? You do a ballad that's like Ballad of Jane, and it has a country vibe almost. It doesn't sound out of place there.
Yeah, that's right.
What is it about, who are your influences? Like, what is it about your voice where you can kind of fit into just whatever it is you're doing? Because not everybody can do it, Phil. A lot of people, they try to switch gears and it doesn't sound right.
That's right. They have one trick and they're really good at it. I don't know. It's because I have such a varied taste in music, like Rod Stewart, Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder, Steve Marriott, a bunch of English people that you would never heard of, Robert Palmer. Robert Palmer's a great example of somebody that could sing anything too.
Yeah.
Who's also really, really good was Dave King, who was the singer in Fastway.
Oh yeah,
He had an amazing voice, but he didn't want to do the metal. He didn't want to do the rock, and he disappeared and reinvented himself as Dave Whatsit in the Young Dubliners, or one of these Irish bands, and doing great at it, and would rather not talk about the metal days. But yeah, he had a great voice. I did a lot of tribute stuff in 10, 15 years ago. Brian Pereira over at Deadline Records, Cleopatra, was put together a lot of tribute to the Scorpions, tribute to Bon Jovi, tribute to Def Leppard, and compilations, and he'd get all these different musicians that he knows on the scene, and put these tracks together. And I was invited to do a lot of them, and it was easy money. It would only take about it never take more than 2 hours. It'd be done in an hour generally if I'd done my homework. And it was just then I started to realize, because then I would be doing Styx stuff and Scorpion stuff, and songs that I would never have touched. Growing up and developing my voice, I didn't have to do cover. I was never in a cover band, and I got a lot of respect for guys that do that. 3 sets a night, and can cover songs like the back of their hand. That's a hell of a skill. And I admire guys that can do that. It's very popular in the Philippines and Far East. You go out and it'll be one band all night, playing anything you can imagine, and take requests, and it's hard to stump them. But yeah, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. I like to think of my voice as an instrument. I like to make it fit in with the music, and I enjoy it from an artistic level. When I was younger, the most important thing about the voice was power. It had to be powerful, because it had to compete or be with being part of a wall of sound. So you needed power, and of course you need pitch. It's no good if you're flat as a board, and timing helps too. Those are the basics. But then you start to hone your act a little, and here we are now talking about it.
Right. You get to the end of the 90s and you leave LA Guns. Was it kind of like what we talked about before? It was just kind of, you felt like it was over and it was time to try something different?
I was glad when it was over. I was so burnt out on it. The band, we just didn't enjoy each other's company, and that's an understatement. We'd been through the trenches, we'd been through the ringer. we started off as being great friends, but just the pressure of the business, and we've been pulled and pushed and prodded and set in different directions, and the brand had really thinned out. It was nothing like the No Mercy, One More Reason to Die, Sex Action band that I joined. We were doing It's Over Now and hated each other. So it was really definitely time. I considered it a mercy killing.
Phil, thanks so much, man. Best of luck with the new album.
Thanks a lot. Great talking to you. Appreciate the support, and come and see us when we're in the area.
I will.
We'll take you.
Thank you, Phil.
We'll take care of you, mate.
I love it, man.
All right, bye.
Bye now.
As a longtime LA Guns fan right here, it was an honor talking with Phil. Hey, once again, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. Rock on!